Hey guys, Connor at Groves Automotive, and today I'm going to show you what rolled into my shop. This is an E46 M3. It's no average M3. This M3 has an ESS tuning supercharger kit on it. I believe it has the ESS 575 kit on it, so it makes about 500 wheel horsepower. It features a set of Bilstein adjustable coilovers. I believe the model on those are PSS 10s or PSS 9s, I'm not sure. It also has a set of Arc8 wheels. It's got some various carbon fiber bits here and there, and the owner really enjoys driving this thing, but he brought it here seeking a little bit more performance out of the front end, specifically adding a set of Camber caster plates and a bump steer kit for the front end steering on this car. So let's generally talk about why these parts are necessary on your modified car, and let's talk about what they're going to yield performance wise and what benefits they actually bring to the table. So this is what a caster camber plate looks like. You're going to notice that some of this stuff actuates back and forth and, rotates like this. And I'm going to explain to you why all this is necessary and basically how this thing works. So on a factory strut in any car or on any coilover, you're going to have what's called a top hat. And this is what the top hat physically looks like. Now, on most OEM or factory top hats, you're not going to have any of this adjustability. So you're not going to have any of these physical slots that are going to actuate back. Now it will rotate back and forth like this, but most of your factory cars are not going to have this adjustment here. And the reason this adjustment is extremely important is because this right here, this bolts onto the car exactly like this you see right here. So the front of the car is like this, the rear of the car is this way. And this adjustment right here, as we move this, the bottom of this is bolted to our strut. So through this hole right here, we're going to have the strut, and it's going to come up and then it's going to protrude through the top of this right here. And inside of there's a bushing and a couple of washers to keep things tight. And we're going to take our nut and we're going to thread it down on top of our strut right here. And that's why this is necessary for rotating. The strut rotates when you turn your wheel and when you go to turn. So this has got to turn with it, and it's got to be able to rotate. And that's the reason that bushing inside is necessary. Now, there's two different types of plates out there. There's street camber and caster plates, and there's race camber and caster plates. This is a set of street plates, and you're going to notice when I take this top washer out, it's got the nice M and ground control logo on it. This bushing right here is made out of a poly, or it's made out of, it's not metal. It's not going to be a race type bushing. In any type of race plates, they're going to have washers, and they're probably going to be solid bushings, or it's going to be a lot stiffer bushing in here to where it doesn't have any deflection at all. It can't move. It's just really, really stiff. So that's the reason that all that needs to swivel, going over the different types of camber and caster plates they make. The benefit from having a street plate on the street is it's going to give you a little bit more comfort. The benefit of having the race plate in a racing environment is it's going to give away some of the deflection, and it's going to allow the plate to just be more precise and more dialed in, which is extremely important on the track. Now, going into caster, camber, in short, is the adjustment that leans the tire in and out like this. And that's the adjustment this way right here, as you can see me moving this backwards and forwards and side to side just like that. Now, as I move the plate physically back and forwards, it has a tiny range of adjustment you can see there. That's my caster adjustment. Caster is when you move the tire back towards the rear of the car or up towards the front of the car. And you're not moving the tire, you're moving the strut, which is connected to the tire and in essence moves the tire. The reason your tires and the placement of all that stuff is so important and crucial is when you start to drive your car in a performance situation, the alignment becomes very important. How many degrees of camber, which is the angle of how the tires leaned in and out. The caster, the angle of how the tires lean backwards and forwards. Those are very important measurements to know. The more negative camber you have is really important because when you have the tire loaded up in a corner, it's going to need more negative camber, so the tire is going to need to lean more in like this, and as we go in this way, we're getting more negative, and that allows the car to, when we're on a track and we have the car loaded up, the tire's not going to roll over on its sidewall, and we're not going to have limited contact patch hitting the tarmac. So when the tire, let's say if it's aligned at -2.5, which is a pretty popular performance alignment on the front, the tire is up like this, so when we're on a straight line, when we're on the road, just cruising at highway speeds, the whole contact patch may not be loaded on the asphalt. But when we're in a turn, trying to get the car on a track to dig in, we're trying to get it to not understeer, the tire loads up. So even though in a straight line we're rolled up like this, the tire in a corner, it centers up more like this, and the whole contact patch is gripping the road. That's what makes these plates useful in any scenario. Now that I've talked about these camber and caster plates, let's talk about a bump steer kit and what it actually looks like. So let's go ahead and get that. All right guys, so what I now have in my hands is a bump steer kit, and this is made from a company called VAC Motorsports. This is going to be necessary if you've lowered your car more than a few inches, and sometimes even if you haven't lowered your car much over an inch, they're necessary and they're required. What this does is this keeps your factory inner and outer tie rod, it keeps them level. So as you'll notice, this part right here, this monoball bushing, it swivels. So right here, this connects to the hub on your car. It'll go down in the physical hole. That's why this is tapered. You put your washer, your nut on, tighten it up, and after all that's tight, this will swivel. So as you turn your steering wheel, this bushing right here will swivel back and forth and give you the adjustment and movement you need. Now, the reason that this is not completely level like the factory system is because this is engineered to fix where the car has been lowered. So when you lower a car from the factory, these are perfectly straight. It doesn't have this extended end here. And the reason this bump steer kit has this extended end on it is because where we've lowered this car, the geometry on the factory tie rod ends is not level anymore. They're physically at an angle now. So they're probably going down to compensate where we've lowered the car. So what we need to do is we need to get these back level again. So we hook this new outer tie rod onto our OEM inner tie rod. It's got a screw point right there. So we just go ahead and we thread it on. And after we do that, we're gonna go ahead and put this part on. We're gonna put our nut on as we've already done in this shot here. And then we're gonna take the factory outer tie rod off, and we're going to replace it with this unit here. So we're gonna put this in the factory hub, and we're going to tighten this nut up, and then after that you're gonna notice where we had an angle where our car was lowered before, we're not gonna have any more angle because this is extended here. This is longer than the factory where it was level, so it's gonna keep, instead of having an angle on things, it's gonna keep this all level, and it's gonna keep the geometry like it was from the factory, so you won't have any alignment problems when you take your car to the alignment shop to have an alignment performed. This helps greatly in assisting alignment issues that arise when you lower cars and when you start to try to obtain those factory specs or even aftermarket specs that are pretty far off from factory stuff. You'll notice when you lower a car, sometimes you can't achieve those specs, and the alignment shop will give you a buzz or give you, they'll call you and they'll say, we can't get those specs. We can't align your car back to factory specs. And the reason is because the factory geometry that was retained is now altered where the chassis of the car and the body of the car has physically been lowered. So these parts just help retaining all that factory alignment, and they give you more adjustability. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video about why camber caster plates and bump steer tie rod kits are actually necessary. And I hope with the information I put out today, you can evaluate if they're actually necessary on your project or what you're doing and what you're working on. So be sure to hit the like, the subscribe button. If there's any questions, throw them down in the comments below and I'll be sure to respond back. And hope you guys enjoyed what you saw today.